play music. Got the music. Is it royalty free?
I broke my back.
What do you mean by that?
My back is broken. What do you mean, calm it down? It's a fight. Referees telling two fighters who want to fight to calm it down. He should calm down.
I saw he's like a clown in his show, man. He's not your guy.
Because Tyson Fury's back, and all you motherfuckers are under attack.
Look, Eddie Hearn can say all what he likes. Who gives a shit what Eddie Hearn says? It's garbage.
Are you off your tits? Have you been smoking something?
Can you let me retire and be happy? Please, just please.
Bombs away from the Bronx Bomber!
Let's go, baby! Let's go!
I'm through. They put somebody else up and give me an interview.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
You never give me a fair shake. HBO needs to fire you. You don't know shit about boxing. You ain't shit. You not shit.
I wish I was 50 years younger and I'd kick your ass.
I got dropped, man. Are you kidding?
No, you won the fight.
OMG, I am so excited.
Any of you radio personalities think you want smoke? Call me Mr. Chimney. I want smoke.
Those shots are definitely at me right now. 100%. Obviously, we're back. MCR live. Matt Hunter, Rob, smash the like button, share the show. Sorry for the technical difficulties in the beginning of the show. I do apologize. I 100% blame my dog, as in my dog ate my homework. But anyways, digressing from that. AJ Miller, Crawford Khan, Usyk going up and fighting Lewis fucking Ortiz potentially. A lot of news to get to, a lot of things to break down. Call in 323-870-4051. Press 1 to get in the queue if you are international. Email me, mixedcombatradio@gmail.com to get that free international and permanent call-in link. All that info is below in the description. But anyways, let's get to Rob because we are kind of late, obviously, for this show. Drastically late. If you're listening on podcasts, you have no idea what I'm talking about because I'm going to cut it out. So, fortunate for you guys. For our YouTube family, deep apologies. Rob, how are you doing for today? Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, because I mentioned it before when you guys couldn't hear me, patreon.com/mixedcombatradio. Go check out our show we did earlier today, interviewing Scott and our good friend of the show, Mitty, about white-collar boxing in the UK and breaking that down. Rob, how are you doing today? And obviously, are you back in the zone, even though with all the technical difficulties? Are you good?
I think I've gathered my thoughts and got myself in show mode. But yeah, shit. You know, what absolute car crash that fucking was. He just so you know, people, pre-show, he got up, off he went, get a drink or bathroom break or something.
Hold on. Before you finish the story, hold on. Let me get some.
So yeah, Matt gets up, walks out the room, and his weird-looking little dog sat on the couch where Matt is right now. Matt comes back.
Yeah, don't be mean to my dog.
Me and Mitty are chatting. He's like, "Yo, I can't hear you guys." And then it sounds like Matt's in like the bathroom or something. Anyway, he sounds all shitty, and he's like, "Which one of you muted me? Which one of you clowns muted me?" We're like, "We didn't." He's like, "I can't hear you." So I'm texting him, and he's all getting all stressy and stuff. And he comes back, figures it out. Oh yeah, my dog pulled the audio leads out and shit. So yeah. And then I don't know what happened as far as the show starting and no audio, but
I mean, the software you use sometimes, you know, it glitches out, right? Sometimes it glitches out, and because like our audio levels were showing like the whole time. It wasn't like it wasn't there. I just had to create a new audio feed basically, and it was the same levels, and it was working apparently. So that's show business. Anyways, digressing.
These dogs just don't know what buttons to press, right? But yeah, Joshua Miller. is next in obviously his American debut. This has come from Dillian Whyte saying he's heard a rumor. Obviously, Matt will he'll get the article about that. Yeah, Amir Khan, he's decided to go the route of, well, if I'm going to lose, at least it's going to be to a world champion, and decided maybe he thinks the Brook fight is still there, after this. And then Usyk with his promotional team coming out with some pretty big names for maybe his heavyweight debut. So yeah, we'll chop it up and talk about it. And where do you want to start? Obviously, the main guy, I guess, Joshua.
Well, I mean, the biggest guy. I mean, both in terms of size and relative stardom. I mean, no offense to Crawford and Khan, but when we get to that topic, that fight should not be pay-per-view. Talking about James DeGale versus Chris Eubank Jr. being pay-per-view on ITV yesterday or the day before. Wow, cannot wait to get into that one. But anyways, yes, going to get into AJ, Miller, it happening, and Dillian Whyte coming out and saying, and I think that actually is a wrinkle to this story that is highly relevant to whether I believe this news or not, or this rumor. But let's get into it itself. So obviously, Dillian Whyte coming out and saying, I heard a rumor Joshua will face Miller at MSG. And the exact quote itself saying, I have no idea if I'm fighting Joshua. I don't know what's going on. I expected him and his team to have at least contacted me. I'm not meeting Eddie until another 2 weeks. That's not enough time to prepare for a fight like that. You need to know what's going on so you start preparing from now. I need to know what I'm doing now. Why at the end of the month? I'm meant to be meeting him, I think, the 14th or 15th. Rumor has it that Joshua's going to fight Miller in MSG. So let's see. It's a small world, and a lot of things you hear in boxing, there's usually a massive amount of truth to it. I mean, I'll put it this way. I love the fight. I know there's some people that don't like the Miller fight. I think it's a fantastic fight for right now. And plus, if it is at MSG, if it is sort of the unspoken of build-up fight towards the Wilder fight or the winner of Wilder Fury, I think it makes a lot of sense. And on top of that, it is a fight that is a little bit newer. It's fresher. It's not a rematch. So that is just an added sort of breath of fresh air in a way, even though the Whyte fight is, of course, respectable and deserving of the title fight with AJ. I like the Big Baby fight more. It's newer. I do like that sort of aspect to it. And plus, it would be Big Baby's real step up. It'd be a massive step up, but it would finally be a step up, and we've wanted that for some time. Rob, first, what's your sort of take on this quote from Dillian Whyte? Do you believe it or not? And do you want to see it happen?
Do I believe Dillian Whyte? I guess, I don't know. This could be, one of is it him trying to get the fight? Is it him trying to force Eddie into having that conversation? Trying to, force the issue a little bit. Or, these boxers obviously hear things. There's people on the insides that, I guess, sometimes loose lips sink ships, or that kind of thing. Things come out that maybe they shouldn't come out. But obviously Dillian's heard this and he's said it. I think these quotes are actually coming from an IFL video he done with Coogan. But yeah, do I want it? I'm really torn because I like the idea that Joshua's making his American debut. Mm-hmm. I like it because, for that kind of aspect, but I feel Dillian Whyte is more deserving of a shot. I don't see what Adamek and Dinu propels you into a Joshua fight when Miller's Dillian Whyte has gone Joseph Parker, Chisora, those kind of fights. So I think that debate's kind of done and dusted, despite what certain people might think. I think a lot of people feel Dillian Whyte deserves it more. But do I like it? I think it'll be interesting. I think Miller will definitely continue his pursuit of drawing Joshua into some kind of, beef and really making it nasty, because he'll say whatever it'll take to try and get under Joshua's skin. And I think we saw that at the DAZN. I think it's on the thumbnail, the DAZN meeting when AJ was there to, I think, announce the Povetkin fight and things like that. So, AJ was, heard to be saying, shut the fuck up, you bitch. And it clearly did rattle Joshua, but if a fight's made, I expect Joshua to try and keep it professional as he does, but I expect Miller to go to some dark places to try and rattle the cage of Joshua. But we'll have to wait and see on news. I mean, I don't know. I'm torn on it. I think the White fight is a great fight. He's really improved. Jarrell Miller's just basically confronted Joshua on a stage and said he'd take his mum out on a date. That's how he's going to get this fight. He's just talked himself into a fight like this. But I think as we get into other topics, we'll come back to this one kind of thing, because there's some interesting stuff now, I think, going on in the heavyweight division. But as far as Joshua Miller, I like the fact that he'll be making his debut in America and MSG. I mean, I think he really had a great time when he was attending the Canelo fight. I think he kind of fell in love with the place and the atmosphere and things like that. And it'll be interesting, obviously, as people that pick apart everything, ticket sales and numbers and who tunes in and what kind of interest this sparks. Obviously, that side of the pond. So, yeah, we'll wait and see on it, but certainly an interesting move, I think.
Yeah, if it definitely, obviously, if it happens, it's a massive move that, like you said, for other people like me who love sort of understanding the business side of it, this is the fight to sort of understand where's that crossover sort of appeal for AJ in the U.S. We don't have really a gauge of that at this point. Because his U.S. Showtime numbers have been sort of low, and the sort of excuse for that, rightly deserving of it, an excuse is that it's not a primetime fight. A primetime fight in MSG, in the media capital, not only of the U.S. but of the world, on whether it's primetime Showtime or DAZN, or probably be DAZN, obviously. But I mean, do they even try to do pay-per-view? I mean, I know we've sort of talked about them not doing pay-per-view, but hey, I'm just throwing ideas out there, just throwing ideas on the wall. There's a lot they can sort of a lot of different paths they can go down for this fight that business heads like me will just love to sort of break down. Ticket sales, viewership, etc. If it's DAZN, we probably never know what the viewership is. But digressing from that. Now, you were sort of torn on whether you would like the Miller fight more than the White fight. And you mentioned the White obviously deserves it more. Miller be coming off of Bogdan, the new fight, and Thomas and Dominic. That's not really the best of wins. Do you think the casual fan will care about that? Because whether you know or not, you're not a casual fan anymore, Rob. Like, you're much more of a hardcore, right? So the fact that you're thinking, oh, I'd rather have White because he deserves it more, that's a hardcore perspective. Do you think most people will have that? Or with the first press conference with Big Baby and AJ, where they go off and shit starts flying around, people will forget.
Yeah, I think, I've seen a lot of even like people I know that quite follow it. They're like, I want Joshua to fight Miller. I want him to, shut him up. He said a lot of shit and he thinks he's this, that, and the other. But I also get a sense that a lot of people don't particularly rate Miller. They know he's a big guy. They know, but he's not fought anyone of any, elite bracket caliber or real world class sort of fighters, I don't think. And but yeah, I agree. I think the minute Miller gets on the microphone in a press conference with AJ sat across from him, and then there's going to be a face-off, obviously. Not sure I'm going to want to be Eddie Hearn in the middle of that face-off, because I think Miller will definitely do everything he can to rattle Joshua. The humble respect and all fighters respect. We don't need to do this, back and forth shit, But Joshua, when it's come to it, he does show that side, but he always tries to keep it respectful. But I think Miller will take this down the route of zero respect and really sell this fight. I think this will be almost, although Wilder's probably maybe a better talker in some regard, like he's more vocal. Right? I want to say a better talker, but he's more vocal. But I can see this almost like the Tyson Fury Wilder situation to a point, as far as like I know they've done a press tour. This will probably just be maybe one in London and one in New York, I'd imagine. But I could see Miller playing that Tyson Fury role and really, cracking the jokes and clowning and doing everything he can to rattle Joshua. But like I say, I'm sort of torn on it. I think it's blatantly obvious with Eddie and co saying they've heard nothing back from Wilder's team, that fight is done, that's gone. And I think obviously therefore that's taking Fury out of the mix. So we've always discussed it. White, Miller and Ortiz are the 3 fights that we would want to see outside of the Wilder and Fury. So I don't know, one's more deserving than the other, one's going to sell it better, and Ortiz is maybe potentially the more dangerous fight out of it. So they've gone to sell the name, try and sell Joshua in America. So I guess
absolutely.
That's in this sense.
Absolutely. An interesting observation I'm just having. It seems like every single UK person that's listening right now in our chat is all agreeing with you that White is the fight, not Miller. I'm going to slightly chalk that up to obviously a little bit of UK bias on our UK listeners and your part, and in a good way. It's a UK versus UK showdown. Of course, you're going to want to see that, and on top of that, White is more deserving. I'm not making it sound like a bad thing, but it makes sense. Would be a good analog. I think most people wanted, at least in the U.S., wanted to see Thurman versus Porter compared to Thurman versus Brook at a time, right? Maybe a few years ago, obviously. Why? Because there's more Sean Porter and Keith Thurman fans in the U.S. Why? Because they're both U.S. fighters, right? I think that's sort of my sort of comparison there. But again, I think business-wise, which always sort of is the controlling factor of the sport, Miller seems like the obvious either next choice or the choice right after that for a lot of obvious reasons. Moving on from this, unless you have any other points, Rob?
No. Like I say, there's the business side of it. There's the sport side of it. Like I say, like Dillian being more deserving. And I don't know. I think obviously business will always win the day, I guess, as far as, prize fighting and things like that come into it. So this is all, I think, just geared around building Joshua's brand.
Agreed.
Obviously, Miller will try and fuck that up, but that's the plan.
Agree. Next topic, Amir Khan, according to Keith Idek of Boxing Scene, has decided to fight Crawford likely April 20th at MSG. And remember, this is going to be on ESPN pay-per-view. I'm not happy about this for a lot of reasons. Not really due to it being Amir Khan. I think like most people, other than maybe Mitty, who is on the phone line, that's going to be, obviously campaigning for his man. Amir Khan is not going to be successful in this fight at almost any period of time. I think Amir Khan will probably lose every round and be knocked out rather early. Probably within 6 rounds, to be honest. Amir Khan might have flash combinations, at spots here and there. But honestly, this isn't a fight where Amir will actually be able to outbox Crawford. He doesn't have, at that point, for obvious reasons, people compare, I think, this a little bit to the Canelo fight because it's seemingly Khan taking the step up, not necessarily in size for this fight, but in terms of taking a step up and finding the best guy available. However, Canelo at that time was sort of criticized heavily for his lack of lateral movement, his lack of ability to move side to side off the center line with his feet, not with his head. He always had that ability, but with his feet, he was always a little bit flat-footed. He would get stuck along the ropes. Crawford does not have that issue. Crawford is one of the best lateral movers in the game. So the idea that Khan can come in here and outbox and outmove Terence Crawford is just laughable. And on top of that, it's pay-per-view. When you add that to it, it makes, a okay fight, because that's what this is. It's an okay fight. It's not a bad fight. It's an okay one. But it makes an okay fight absolutely shitty instantly, in my mind, because it's shitty for the consumer at that point. This is going to be what, $65, $75, $55, whatever it is. It's going to do atrocious on pay-per-view. I see Andre Diakonou. Shout out to Andre Diakonou in the chat. Saying, can Bud sell out MSG? I think Bud versus Amir Khan can absolutely sell out MSG. Or maybe just under that. I can see a 16,000, 17,000 sort of attendance. I could see a few thousand UK fans coming over. Absolutely. That's not really a concern. It's going to be pay-per-views. The idea of them putting this on pay-per-view is to sort of test the waters again with Crawford. And on top of that, it's because the monetary sort of obligations for this fight, because of both guys' purse demands at this point, they have to put this fight on pay-per-view. Crawford's making $3 million plus fighting Jeff Horn on regular ESPN. The rumor is obviously that Amir Khan's been offered $5 million guarantee plus pay-per-view upside for this fight. God knows what Terence Crawford's making. It's probably around the same, if not more. So it's a crazy scenario for the fans, for the consumers. And again, it's for a fight that everyone knows what's going to happen. No one in their right mind is going to actually call into this show and say, yeah, Amir Khan's going to win. No one is, because it's just not reality. Rob, I realized I've been ranting for like 5 minutes about how this thing is such shit. And this is arguably, I'm going to go on a limb here. Of all the pay-per-views we have on the schedule right now for the U.S., including Wilder Fury, Pacquiao Broner, Spence Garcia, which everyone knows I've criticized heavily, this is the worst one. By far.
Yeah, a lot of people here sort of upset with Khan in a way of, we're not getting the Brook fight because it kind of peaked again as the interest. At first, people were like, oh, who cares? It's all too late. You should have done this 5 years ago, 4 years, whatever. But as more and more came out, all the Eddie interviews and Brook getting in the ring with Khan after the Vargas fight and things like that, people were like, oh, it might happen. And then there was a buzz about it again to a degree. And now, according to reports and sources have said, Khan's picked to fight Khan has picked to fight Crawford. So, look, that's another world title fight. It's a big payday. I think he would have made more here, but that's beside the point. So we can maybe take it that, the world title shot. And I think in his mind, Khan thinks the Brook fight's always going to be there. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. That might be a miscalculation on his part. I'm not sure.
Just to jump in on that quick point, because we talked about this before the show. I think yesterday. I think the obvious logic is, look, if Amir Khan goes and fights Kell Brook right now and loses, he can't go and then go get the $5 million plus payday for Terence Crawford. That's not going to be on the table anymore. He can lose to Terence Crawford tomorrow, and the next day, Kell Brook will sign a contract to fight him. Right? So
I get that side of it. Yeah.
But anyway, just continue.
Yeah, no, I just wonder if Kell Brook is just going to wait around again, because his career has kind of just been, I don't know, he got the Porter win, and then there's the talk of Khan every now and then that pops up, and it's like he treads water waiting for Khan, and it's almost as if he's took this just to fuck with Brook again. Mm-hmm. Like, all signs were looking like it was getting made. Oh, guess what? I've gone and got myself another fight. See you later. So where does that leave Brook? There's talk of Hurd said he wants to come to the UK and fight Brook. Things like that, which I believe Brook is now the mandatory to Hurd as well. So that might happen. But so in that regard, I wonder I think that's it now for the Khan Brook fight personally, because Kell Brook just can't hang around waiting. So, but as far as the actual fight, Khan and Crawford, obviously that UK guy, but I can't necessarily make a case for Khan. I think you're a bit harsh saying he'll win no rounds and this, that, and the other. I think we know Khan can put together fantastic rounds and look amazing. And I know Bud's maybe a different caliber of fighter than he's fought in a long time, but when Khan does let his hands go, it is quite overwhelming and sort of swarming. But he can obviously, as we know, against Samuel Vargas, he sort of came out of every exchange the wrong way and was walking onto, the dangerous hand, and he got laid up. But I think he can win rounds, and I think he will win rounds for as long as the fight lasts. But we all know
how many rounds. Does he win most of the rounds before the knockout? Like, is he up on the scorecards in your opinion by the time the knockout happens?
I believe quite potentially, yeah. I really do.
Are you off your tits? Have you been smoking something?
I'm gonna address that, man. God damn. The level of disrespect on Terence Crawford's head, man. God.
Wait, you're hitting me with Eddie Hearn. Let me just hit you back.
Look, Eddie Hearn can say all what he likes. Who gives a shit what Eddie Hearn says? It's garbage.
Thank you, Frank.
That was a good one. That was a good one. But yeah, I really have nothing else to say about this fight. We can move to the last topic. Again, call in 323-870-4051. Press 1 to get in the queue. If you're international, email me, mixedcombatradio@gmail.com to get a free international and permanent call-in link. But yeah, Crawford Khan, awful pay-per-view. Has no right to be pay-per-view. I would have easily took the Collazo fight on ESPN over this shit. And King Khan getting his ass knocked out within 6 rounds easily.
Very quick, I just want to say, it appears that all American promoters are making American fight fans reach into their pocket just to prove Eddie Hearn wrong, that US pay-per-view is dead. So I'm glad you're all part of the experiment, just to piss off the English promoter. It is kind of amusing to me in a little way. I don't know. It's just like, I think it's just February, right? There isn't one.
Look, I'll be honest. Eddie really can't say shit about pay-per-view when he's doing a lot of pay-per-views in the UK. Like, he's part of the influx pay-per-view in the UK model. He's the reason why Frank Warren's doing pay-per-view now. He's the reason why ITV is doing pay-per-view now. It's because of Eddie. Secondly, to sort of not the same promoter, but another promoter tied to the zone, Oscar De La Hoya, has been very adamant recently. Totally a tangent moment, but we're gonna go on this tangent, right? Yeah, rabbit hole right here. Oscar De La Hoya going on Twitter in the last 2 weeks and going after Dana White of the UFC, talking about how pay-per-view is dead, pay-per-view is dead. That motherfucker literally put on Chuck Liddell versus Tito Ortiz 3 in 2018 for pay-per-view. And guess what? That pay-per-view costs more than every single pay-per-view in the UK. So, fuck Oscar De La Hoya. Eddie Hearn, you're cool. Right? I'm like, but Eddie, come on. No,
but he said, he's been over this. Like, the UK model is different. I think the broadcasters don't sort of put up that initial fee like over in America. I guess it's changing, but I was just taking little shots that you.
No, I'm just saying the better thing would be DAZN is making, instead of saying oh Eddie, because I know that he's your hero and idol. Your argument would be DAZN is trying to do this because Eddie is still doing pay-per-views. No,
I just quoted Eddie. He said US pay-per-view is dead. The pay-per-view model in America is dead.
I understand that, but he's saying it. He's saying it because DAZN is saying it.
Yeah, right? But I'm just saying it as a quote.
And Oscar De La Hoya, and again, Oscar De La Hoya is saying it. Why? Because DAZN telling him to say it. Guess what? Both those promoters are still fucking doing pay-per-views.
I don't think. That's probably it.
Come on, you really telling me that Eddie, if he doesn't get Wilder versus AJ in the US, he's not doing pay-per-view? Man, get the fuck out of here. Come on. You know it. I know it. We all know it. Okay.
I just did it for shits and giggles. That's all I said it for.
Yeah,
because you've gone Wilder Fury December. You got January Manny Pacquiao and Broner, which we're getting for free. And then I think February, you get to earn your money back. And then March, April. Ka-ching. But anyway, next topic.
God damn it. Next topic. Oleksandr Usyk. God bless this guy, man.
I'm very feel.
Honestly. And to be honest, this news I'm a little bit skeptical of, so I'm just putting that disclaimer out there. It first was reported by Fight News Info, which is a Eastern European website / Russian website. And they're reporting from his manager or promoter at K2 that, because they switched the words manager and promoter numerous times in the article, in different sources, so I don't know exactly who this person is and what relation they are to Usyk, whether it's, again, part of the promotion with K2 or with his management team. But anyways, digressing, they're reporting that Big Baby Miller and Joseph Parker have rejected offers to face Oleksandr Usyk, and now they're looking at Luis Ortiz, and I forget the next name. Oh, Alexander Povetkin. Sorry, I don't have it in front of me. I think that's fantastic if this was to happen. I know they did bring up in that same interview that Denis Lebedev is still an option at cruiserweight. It is what it is. I think, obviously, a Luis Ortiz fight, it's two southpaws with great lateral movement against each other. That's fantastic. I think both guys will probably struggle just due to that. They're both being southpaws. Ortiz is a gigantic heavyweight with good power. Like, that is a massive step up, and it's been arguably the top 4 or 5 heavyweight in the division. And if it's not Ortiz, it's Povetkin, who, again, is one of the top 4 or 5 heavyweights in the division, and a guy that's been around for a very long time at the top of the pro ranks. So either fight I'm okay with. Either fight I'm excited for. And honestly, I think those are if I was, again, it looks like they try to do this at least. If I was Usyk, I would have really pushed for a Big Baby or Parker fight before heading in there with the Ortiz or Povetkin. That would have been the second fight I would have done instead of the first one. It would have been Parker. Like that, in an ideal world, it would have been Joseph Parker, in my opinion. But it's not them. They're choosing to go not step down, a step up. I have to, applaud them for that if that's, true, if this, alleged story is happening. Rob, what's your sort of take on this rumor? What do you want for Usyk next? Do you want Ortiz? Do you want Povetkin? Are you excited by those 2 names? Did you get giddy like I did when I saw that?
Yeah, I was like, wow. We thought perhaps he'd dip his toe in the heavyweight division, just sort of grow into the division a bit. I know he's a big guy anyway, but
we could have seen a David Price, like, for example. We could have easily seen a David Price perform.
Stop. Just cut it. But first of all, I want you to hit the conspiracy theory soundbite.
Oh, hold on. Oh.
Is that the conspiracy theory soundbite? All right.
I don't have the X-File ones from the other show because it's from the other show.
All right. Now, I just think it's very interesting that Luis Ortiz is one of the names. And there have been little rumors cropped up again after they initially died down before this news today that Luis Ortiz signing with Eddie Hearn again. So I just find it interesting that
news or like internet chatter.
I can't remember where I saw it. So it is probably. I seem to think I saw it from someone who's usually pretty
like decent, like you're not.
Maybe not 100%. It's not like Keith Idek said it, but someone who's usually.
Yes, I understand what you're saying.
I just think that's interesting, because obviously Povetkin co-promoted with also looking to work with Eddie Hearn, I believe. And we've also heard, obviously we know Usyk is signed to DAZN and co-promoted with Matchroom and K2. And obviously Miller was one of the offered. I believe Parker's also got some kind of interest or some link that Eddie sort of had said about Parker fighting here again. He's obviously worked again with the Dillian White. And it was the other name that was turned it down. That's Parker and who turned it down?
Big Baby.
Big Baby. And obviously Big Baby is DAZN / Eddie, Matchroom, whatever. So Ortiz, is he back with Matchroom? Is he going to be back with Matchroom?
I doubt it. Only because I've talked to Ortiz in person. Like his feelings on Eddie Hearn in that time is not kind at all. He definitely looks at that sort of little tiny part of his career as a negative, in large part due to Eddie Hearn. These are his words. These are my own conversations with him. So it would just be surprising to me. It'd be a big shock. Now, does he take a one-off fight and it's co-promoted by Matchroom and K2 in a sense? Absolutely, I can see that. I think Ortiz is not bitter enough to not do business with Eddie Hearn, but to be signed by Eddie again, I don't know about that.
I just find it, obviously, Ortiz is PBC, right? So the fact when they let the big outside of Wilder, their other big heavyweight is Luis Ortiz. They're going to let him go and fight on DAZN against Usyk.
I doubt it.
I just find it highly interesting. I just think that's a real.
There's a reason why we're hearing this from Usyk's side. Like, we're not hearing it from like Luis de Cubas, like anyone from Ortiz's camp or team saying, "Hey, look, we're talking about the Usyk fight." No, we're hearing it from Usyk's side. You get what I'm saying here? So it's not like Ortiz is seriously considering it. He could have got an email in his inbox from Usyk's team, and he either looked at it or didn't look at it, or it's not on their radar now because it's PBC, but there is an offer being sent, right? That's why it is news, allegedly. But also, I mean, we've talked about this before, like how tied are these fighters to certain networks / promotions / boxing media entities, a la PBC. Is Ortiz as tied to the PBC label, Fox, and Showtime as people think? / is Usyk tied to DAZN as much as people think? I'm hesitant to say either one is really tied down, in any sort of contractual way to those networks. So the idea that either one could sort of, cross over and fight on Fox, fight on Showtime, or fight on DAZN, I think that's possible from a contractual perspective. Does either one do that? That's another story in and of itself.
Well, I believe Usyk is a 3-fight deal with DAZN, so with Matchroom Boxing or whatever. So
but see, there's a difference right there. There's a massive difference in terms of contracts. What you're tied to. If you're tied to DAZN or Matchroom, big difference, massive.
Well, I think it is DAZN because I remember DAZN sort of welcome to DAZN Usyk kind of graphic, social media post. And I guess with all the PBC side, have any of them really got an actual like a promoter as such? That's why Eddie's been able to approach, just because they're Al Heyman guys. Al Heyman's obviously a manager or advisor or whatever the role is. So he's not actually like a promoter. So that's why Eddie has been able to, send offers to the Charlos and the Herds and the this, that, and the other. So, and then I guess we've kind of found out no one's really contractually, like on paper, signed to Showtime or whatever. So that side of things, I guess, can come this way. It's just what is Al prepared to say? No, don't take that fight. We've got you a fight coming on shit. You know what I mean? It's
you're absolutely right. And on top of that, we've talked about before, like the idea of scheduling, like how many fights Al owes Showtime and Fox, is willing to let a guy like Ortiz, who could easily headline a FS1 card or maybe a Showbox card, would he be willing to let him go? I don't know. That's why Daniel Jacobs, I think, is still sort of an outlier out there, and why he hasn't sort of firmly gone to DAZN or to PBC's sort of network connections, because I think Al is probably in his ear, as he should, as a businessman, saying, "Hey, look, no, I don't know if you should go to DAZN." I'm not saying that's happening. I don't know. I'm purely speculating. But again, just think big picture here. Like you said, are guys like Luis Ortiz, a guy like Daniel Jacobs, are those names, are those assets that Heyman's willing to let go to DAZN long term or mid-term? Because most of these contracts are 5-fight contracts, nothing really longer than that. It's just interesting stuff because, again, this is just a name that I don't think anyone was really expecting, Luis Ortiz. Povetkin makes sense, right? It's Ukraine versus Russia. Obvious promotional aspects you can play in there. On top of that, both guys have worked with Eddie Hearn numerous times, have been on DAZN. Like, that should be an easy fight to make, let's be honest. And probably, to be honest, again, should be the next fight. It's a little bit easier, I think, than the Ortiz fight. And I don't think Usyk should step in there with Wilder or AJ or Ortiz or Fury right off the rip. I think that would be a very dumb move if I was Usyk's team. I would not be telling him to do that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, after we saw Povetkin against Joshua, I think you survived the early onslaught. You know, the jumping in with that big left hand or the swinging right, the right hand. You take Povetkin into the later rounds, he's done. You know, he kind of.
On top of that, Povetkin looks older too. Like in terms of fight age, you know, he looks to be a little bit more of the older fighter, a little more past his prime. Even though Ortiz might be around the same age or might actually be older than him, Ortiz seems like the younger fighter, so to speak, when he's in the ring.
Yeah, so to a point, I think Ortiz still looked fairly lively. You know, was it in the 11th round with Kaufman or whatever it was? Yeah. He still looked, chasing him around the ring. I don't think Kaufman particularly made him just stand there and trade off with him. He made him come and get him when he could. But so yeah, and then like I say, Povetkin. I mean, credit to AJ. I think he boxed really well. That survived that early pressure and then sort of got into his boxing, and it just seemed to really just catch up with Povetkin on the night. And obviously AJ finished him off. But as far as Usyk's debut at heavyweight, I think Povetkin is the more obvious fight out of the two options there. And like you say, easy sell. It'd be interesting where that fight gets made. I guess like you say, Ukraine and Russia, but I think probably end up fighting in the UK. I don't know, but it'll be interesting. But yeah,
that'd be a bad move. That'd be a bad move if it's in the UK. Honestly, like I know right now may not be the best time to sort of put that fight in either place because of just the political tension right now between those two countries. But Usyk has fought in Russia before. I know he didn't like that. I know he's talked about that before, about not being quite thrilled about that. But hell, if you can find some sort of soccer stadium and put 70,000, 80,000 Ukrainians and Russians all in there, maybe that's a big security concern, and that's why it's not being discussed or talked about. But that fight could do it, right? I mean, Povetkin's been around the block for a long time. Same with Denis Lebedev. Obviously, I think lesser stature than Povetkin, but Denis Lebedev, a Russian fighter that's been a veteran, might slip into a Hall of Fame class on a slow year. I think, again, there should at least be some conversation, even if it's a quick one, where it's like, hey, I mean, could we put these two guys in a big soccer stadium and fill out 100,000 seater with a bunch of Ukrainians and Russians and sell out a bunch of vodka? Oh, no, because of terrorists? Oh, okay, I understand. But
that was a longer conversation than I thought it was going to be. Actually, you spelt the scenario out a little bit longer before the fuck no.
But hey, at least I hope some sort of conversation happened because damn, that would be cool to see. It would be if they could somehow first from a security perspective make that safe. That would be insane.
For me, the shortest version of that is. Usyk, Povetkin, Russia? In Russia? No. What about Ukraine? No. There you go. I think, yeah, I don't think it's a good idea. And I just think, but I'm just excited.
No balls.
Yeah. I just think it's exciting to see that this is how fast Usyk wants to move. If these names are legit and offers have been sent out, I think it's crazy, but he is crazy, right? So, I nearly said it is what it is, but it is.
Digressing.
Kudos to you.
But like you said, Usyk is a crazy motherfucker. If anyone was to do that, he could do it. Mitty in the chat saying World Cup was in Russia. It's not necessarily that they can't put on big events in these countries. Like I said, they did Garcia versus Usyk in Russia, so they can. But a massive 100,000 seater with the fight crowd. Again, do some research, Mitty and others, on Ukrainian far right terrorist organizations and their ties to combat sports. It's a scary connection, and Russia is just the same. But anyways, let's actually go to Mitty in the call list, the queue. If you want to call in, 323-870-4051, press 1 to get in the queue, or call in internationally, email me, mixedcombatradio@gmail.com to get free international and permanent call-in link. Mitty, how you doing? You can come defend your boy Khan.
Yo, yeah, I'm doing good, man. Kind of, yeah, but I want to do it in reverse order, right? I just want to pick up those topics in all of, in slightly different orders. So, and I want to start with the last one because it's the easiest one and the quickest one to discuss, right? So, to me, just as a slide comment, the World Cup on the last stuff, I want to explain my World Cup comments.
Mm-hmm.
A big 100,000-seater event with fighting in Russia. That's exactly what the World Cup was, man. So they have a history for hooliganism and wanting to have organized people that want to go and fight people and have security concern. That was a massive issue for the World Cup being in Russia, and they proved that they kind of did that all right. And that you said that yourself, they did Usyk, Gassiev before. It's not as big as Povetkin. Actually, maybe it was as big as Povetkin, I think, because of the context of the tournament and what it meant for the division or whatever, right?
Stop.
Gassiev is not that guy, or that name, but I think that it was a packed out venue, right? But anyway,
very quickly, just because I want the smoke today. I feel it, right? I feel it. We weren't arguing on the show earlier because it was all friendly. I didn't like that. Let's argue a little bit, okay? A couple points. Obviously, the Gassiev fight is not the same as Povetkin due to casual awareness. I'm not a Russian fan. I'm not living in Russia, but it's safe to assume that Povetkin's probably more well-known than Murat Gassiev, right?
Yeah, I agree. That I'm not arguing with you. I agree with
okay,
you.
that's one point. That's one point. Another point, also, the example I brought up for the Povetkin fight was a massive football stadium. That's different than a 20,000-seat stadium. It just is from a security perspective. On top of that, you brought up the World Cup. I think you brought up also the Olympics have been there. Those events are diametrically different from fight fans and fight culture.
That's where we disagree, right? Because
the people that go watch international skiing aren't the same people that go watch fights.
Forget the skiing. I'm talking about the World Cup and football specifically, and in Russia. And maybe it's because the World Cup is not that same type of events in the US that is it everywhere around the world, but especially in Europe. When we announced that the World Cup was in Russia, automatically, especially in England, right? Especially there was a lot of news and people warning against traveling in Russia, especially from English crowds, and there was bundle of TV program showing how the Russian crowd is organized into fighting section and are looking to go out there to fight other fans, and they were going to try to use the World Cup to just bring the attention to their different political causes, the same causes that you mentioned and stuff like that. So there was a big campaign to raise awareness against that threat, and also to put pressure on Russia to make sure that they keep that on check, right? So to me, that's exactly the same example. And we're digressing, I guess, from the boxing topic, but this is exactly the same scenario. And they've proved that on a much, much bigger scale by hosting the World Cup with no issues.
Yeah, you're right, Mehdi. There was a big, people.
No. Again, I understand your point. I'm sorry, Rob, but you're going to agree with him, and that's not fun. No. Let me jump in, because me and Mitty are arguing.
You jumped in, now you've got back.
What? I had my headphones on the whole time. I can hear. Even though I was walking around the room, I could hear. Back off.
Because Mitty was against you, pacing up and down. I was just going to say it was very... A lot of Brits were warned, and loads were saying, fuck that, I am not travelling. It is going to kick off. This World Cup is going to be an absolute shambles. But I believe... who's the lunatic running the place?
What do you mean?
Matt.
Putin.
Putin.
Yeah, Putin. there was a massive thing out from Putin that everyone will behave. Anyone caught with doing this.
Yeah, he put them on check. The world is watching, basically, like,
Yeah,
except from the US, but the world is watching. Yeah, so you know that's the biggest sport in the world. That's one of the biggest sporting events in the world. Maybe the second or the first. I don't know.
It's one or two.
Olympics.
It's
exactly,
one or two.
Yeah. So chill. Like boxing, one of Povetkin, they've done it somehow. It's all good. They will handle that.
Again, I would argue that the average football fan is different.
That's why you're wrong, because you're arguing football like with American culture.
Again, bro. I've been in the UK. I've been in London for the World Cup. I understand the culture. Okay,
there's no World Cup.
And let me
except in '66, but you were not born. you know, relax, man.
Midi, can you let me finish my point, or I'm gonna mute you, please? Thank you. Secondly, I wasn't in when the World Cup was in London, but I was in London when the World Cup was going on. So I was in pubs when football games were going on, when London was winning. I think that was, in 2016, right? That was the last one?
England, 2014. Like.
Was it 14? Was it that long ago?
2014, 2018,
oh, shit, it was.
2010. Then let's go off.
Anyways,
No.
We're
not going to win that football argument, but that's all good.
Yo, Midi, please stop cutting me off, for the love of fucking God. Seriously.
All right, go for it. Just make a good point then.
Again, my point is, Midi, I always want the smoke, buddy, and you're pissing me off, so I'm going to get really heated. This is going to be fun. The average football fan, right, soccer fan, to use the U.S. term, because you threw that out, like I don't know what football fans are like, because I've been around football games in the U.K., they act different than far-right Eastern European football fans, do they not? They do. On top of that, MMA fans or boxing fans act vastly different than the average football fan. They do. Come on, are you really gonna act like the same person that goes to your average boxing event is the same person that goes to a Liverpool game or a Manchester game? It's not. They're different people.
Listen, like you're gonna be surprised, but we're gonna agree right here because yes, I agree that in today's world, like the average UK boxing fan, even if they're part of like a faction that used to have like a strong, firm, like hooligan culture and whatever, it's different. It's not the same. We're not in the 80s, 70s or whatever anymore. And that's cooler than what it used to be. But what you said is like they're different from Eastern European, as in Russian far-right football hooligan. And that's where it's going to be. Like those guys are going to be, I want to just say that those guys are going to be the same guys that are going to be in that crowd for the boxing event. And those are the same guys that they managed to tempt for the World Cup, so they should be able to do that.
You're arguing that the average Eastern European football fan, the far-right mentality, the links to terrorist organizations, those people are the same that go to the average boxing or MMA show.
They're going to be there, and that's going to be the same kind of thing. And if not, right, if they manage to tame those people that are supposedly like, you know, the crazy dudes for that World Cup event, then they should be able to tame the same type of people, which going to be like the fighting type of fans that go to the boxing event. But again, like that's
but Midi, I want to
show, right? So.
No, it's not. It's the show. Who cares? I don't know why you're trying to duck an argument. You have to understand that the logistics or what should I say? The resources the World Cup has for security is vastly different than K2 Promotions and Matchroom Boxing for that potential fight, right? If it was in Moscow or whatever, right? Like the resources those two companies have are vastly different, right?
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah, I agree. You're right. It's all good.
I'm glad this was the quick topic you wanted to touch on.
yeah, like I can't wait for the quick topic I wanted to say, like it's a hashtag fake news, right? In that thing, like that fight is probably not gonna happen. Can it happen? Yes, it's good. Are we exciting about it? Like, yes, of course. Like, who doesn't want to see Usyk, who people are saying is skillful and is gonna fight Ortiz or Povetkin, which are like top 5 guys? Yes, but realistically, do we all believe that it's gonna happen? Probably not, because you would not do that in your first fight, like you mentioned before. And maybe you do it in your second fight, but you know, even like when Matt said David Price, I kind of see it. Maybe why don't you get someone just to say, yeah, okay, I've got one heavyweight on my record. Let me move on to top 5 or whatever, Ortiz or Povetkin. But yeah, fake news at least for a fight or 2 before he stops up.
Quickly, Fugatti, I see in the chat. You can have the smoke too, motherfucker.
I want smoke.
Just saying. Just saying. Okay. Just saying. Hold on, matey. You're cutting me off again. 1966, Matt. We'll come and whoop your ass any day of the week. Okay. Okay. Come on. Come on.
But that was the first topic, right? Like the last topic. But the first topic was what the
Joshua
Miller, Joshua. Again, I agree with both of you. Right? You made all the points that needs to be made. Who's deserving from a sporting point of view? Dylan White. Yes, I want to see it. Yes, the UK want to say, yeah, of course it makes sense in the UK. But Matt brings up like a very good point in terms of saying, like, what, commercially, we kind of seen it once. We know it's making money. We know it's probably going to make money again. It should be. And it will happen at some point, right? Whether both of them have a belt or only one of them has a belt, blah, blah. It will happen anyway if it makes money. But raising AJ's profile in the US, or maybe not raising, but raising it even more, or just proving or shutting one side of the argument down to say, oh, you've never shown that you can do numbers. It will be able to do that and shut that argument down by saying, well, okay, I heard what you said, but I've done it. And look at the numbers, and that's fighting Miller at MSG on the zone. So it won't be pay-per-view. We won't know the number, but we will know that it is big. The only thing is people will start discrediting that win as soon as he beats Miller, because right now, a population or faction of the fan are making an argument for it. But that's the same population that will jump off Miller case as soon as he loses and say, oh, he wasn't really anyone anyway. He ate cheeseburgers and, he didn't beat no one, whatever. Right? And the casual will say, yeah, that's right. What was, AJ doing with that fat dude? So that's what's going to happen. And I hope it happens because it shuts down one more avenue. But like whatever happens, man. So, and poor Dylan White, that's what I'm saying, man. He's going to get very pissed off soon.
Where does that leave Dylan White? If it is...
Dylan is cool.
Wait for Wilder and Fury to see if that gets made, and I guess that leaves Brazil, right?
Yeah, and, he leaves him with, like, making, 10 mil, or anywhere between 10 mil in his next fight, and waiting for another big fight. He just needs to ensure that he doesn't lose in between. And, he's coming out now, just being a bit more aggressive towards like AJ, and maybe be a bit more aggressive towards like Eddie and stuff like that. But a bit like Matt said with Ortiz, right? So I think it's all smokes and mirrors, all creating hype and tension. Like I think White is happy working with Matchroom, because if you really, really want to just say things how they are, Matchroom actually built White to the person that he is today. They could have just left him. Like if you remember when White fought AJ, he wasn't signed to Matchroom. They signed him straight after that, off a loss, and they said, "Don't worry, my dude. You're gonna come back and you're gonna make a lot of money along the way, to the point that you're gonna be screaming, I want AJ, I want this, I want that," and that's what happened. So like White knows that, and he's not stupid, and he's quite happy with his situation with Matchroom, right? So it's all good. That's bigger picture.
So do you want to touch on Amir Khan and Crawford?
Hey, Amir King Khan.
Any of you radio personalities think you want smoke?
The king is back.
I want smoke.
I said it last year. We're not here just to take part. We're here to take over. No, don't be scared, homie.
Come on, like Matt, you can come back for round 2. I've got a feeling you might win that round, but like I'm gonna give it a good go, just like Khan will do against Crawford, man. So like
there was obvious bias in the judges for that last round, because that was clearly a close round. I arguably won that. I don't know what anyone is saying.
Yeah, that was like a bit like Like the Wilder Fury decision, like we don't know who won, although we all know who won, right? But it's all good.
Sure, fam. Sure.
No, so here we go. I'm gonna surprise you, right? But I'm not gonna be that one UK guy, the only UK guy that's gonna come on the line and tell you that Khan is gonna win. I believe he will lose, but for very different reason than yours, right? So I believe he will lose, but he will lose giving himself a very, very good account of himself. Everyone likes talking about the chin and all that. I want to believe that in that fight, Khan goes to a decision and loses on a split decision, right?
Wait, hold on. Did you just say that you think Amir Khan loses to Crawford by split decision? So there's enough
That's what I said.
There's enough of an argument to make that Khan will win 7 rounds versus Crawford. That's your opinion.
No. That's not what I mean. That's kind of what I said. But like, what I said is like, he probably will win that fight, but he ain't getting a decision over there on the top rank thing. Like, so he'll come up with loads of credits and he won't get stopped. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
The same Khan whose last fight barely survived against Samuel Vargas.
That's the same one.
That's the same one that's gonna outbox Crawford.
That's the same dude. That's the same dude.
Who's in his prime
right now.
Stars
make fights, and you get up differently for different people. Like that's how it works.
Yo, I can hear you, Mitty. I can hear you like laughing as you're saying that. Come on.
I'm gonna tell you the truth. I believe that Bud. I believe that Bud is the truth, right? And that's the reality. I believe that Bud in that division is number 1 pound for pound, and generally speaking, with all the bullshit about, in that fight, I also believe that Bud will win, right? On a decision, and maybe on a stoppage. I don't actually know, right? It depends on what Khan will do with some of those shots. But I don't actually believe that it's gonna be one-sided. I'm gonna believe that it's gonna be competitive to the point that you're gonna have a tight scorecard, and Khan will come out with a lot of credits at the end of it.
What technically does Khan do and Crawford doesn't do
nothing.
that makes you think Khan would be competitive?
Khan does nothing better than Crawford. The only thing he does have, the attribute that he has over Crawford, is the hand speed. But that alone is not enough to win a fight again, like a technician like Bud. It's enough to win against dummies, even against dummies that then Khan lost again, like a Danny Garcia. If he didn't close his eyes and through that, he would have lost. But a technician like Bud has too much in his arsenal to just be taken apart by one weapon only. You need to bring a different arsenal for Bud, and that's not going to happen. But I believe that Khan will make it competitive enough, and he will win round. But it's not about winning 5 rounds, right? It's about winning 7 rounds, to win the fights. And I believe that the guy who will do that is Bud, But that's the thing. That's the sad thing is my prediction, if my prediction is right, at the end of this fight, we're going to have a stupid conversation with people around oh, you know what? Bud wasn't that good. If that happens, you're going to have a lot of people that say, oh, Bud wasn't that good. He's now outside of the top 10. Instead of saying that, you know what? Maybe we don't know shit. We don't know what we're talking about when we're looking at fights, and we don't know what we're talking about when we're looking at fighters, and Khan is not that bad.
I would say, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. I do think that last point you sort of touched on is a relevant point we can sort of delve into. I think if your example or your sort of fantasy scenario of Khan lasting all 12 and winning one judge's scorecard, that's your fantasy, is that Khan maybe wins 1 scorecard, not 3. That's the extent. That's okay. Anyways, I'm not going to delve into that. That I would argue that there is some substance behind then having the conversation about, is Crawford really as good at 147 as we think he is?
No, I don't think there is, because
again, if Khan is able, I'm not talking about 147. I'm talking about Crawford being good. I'm talking about How good is he for that division?
I feel you. I understand everything that you're saying, but
because
again,
if he
what
can't
I'm
put out
saying is,
Khan,
like,
come on, if he can't put
styles.
out Khan,
It's styles. People bring different things to the table, like, and like, for example, you might have like your idea right now. If I tell you, and if I tell, like, I don't know, 100 people who's better between Danny Garcia and Khan at 147 today, I have 99 people that will tell me Danny Garcia, and one person, probably me, that will say, nah, man, that's Khan, right? But that's because, that's what they've accomplished at that division, and that's the style and whatever. But I'm telling you that styles make fights. And against Crawford, I see a Danny Garcia having less of a chance of doing anything good against Crawford than a Khan, because of the attribute that they come to the game. When they come in there, like, if Garcia fights Crawford, he doesn't have enough to do anything with Crawford, because he will just be stationary, being there, trying to counter punch someone who is like much sharper than him and everything. So that's going to be an easy fight for him. And so that's why we can't compare this way and say who's better, who's this. Crawford is not that good, because he would have struggled with Danny, for example, in my fantasy, but he would not have struggled with. He would have struggled with Khan, but he would have beat like Danny easily in my fantasy world.
I understand your point, Mitty, and I think a lot of when we talk about styles make fights, a lot of that has to do with sort of technical style and technical skill.
Yeah.
But if Crawford looks, at the very least, into a competitive close fight with Khan, the question is not necessarily about technique, because I think we all know Amir Khan is technically skilled. The question would be, is Terence Crawford the size and the power for 147 pounds?
But
that would be the question, right?
Is a knockout like the only way of winning a fight? That becomes a question. Like, there are some people.
It's not about that, Mitty. It's not about that. It's
okay.
about.
Take Pernell Whitaker. Is Pernell Whitaker a great?
Of course he
yes
is.
or no?
Of course.
Like, does Pernell has pop? No. Every fight he goes into, he goes in there without having the side, without having the pop. But he will do what boxing is all about for the people who love the sweet side. He will hit and not get hit. Simple.
But again,
and he'll go and win a 12 rounds decision.
But again, Mitty, you must realize that if Crawford doesn't have the power to keep Khan off of him for 12 rounds and knock him out, then what's he going to do to Earl Spence? What's he going to do to Sean Porter?
Does he have the chin to withstand what Earl Spence, the success that Spence will have?
It's not necessarily about the chin. It's not necessarily about that. It's about keeping Spence off of him for enough to be able to unload his combinations.
That's about the chin.
If he can't keep Khan off, if he can't keep Khan off, and Khan's able to throw combinations, then Spence is going to be able to throw combinations. Porter's going to be able to throw combinations.
Understood, but that's exactly the point. If I can't keep you off, can I withstand your attack? Do I have the chin? And that's my point. And if the answer is yes, if I can block those body shots quite enough, and if I can withstand the power shots, and whilst you're having your success for, let's say, 5 rounds, and you're winning those 5 rounds, but you still don't get me out of there, then that's fine. I'm going to win my 7 rounds and I win the fight. So that's what I'm saying. Like, you bring different tools to the table. And people that are not blessed with power are not necessarily the ones that will not do anything in there. And that's another guy that we can talk about, right? Like, so in any division, we can look at people like that in the heavyweight division. When we talk about Tyson Fury, right? He's blessed with power, but he's not blessed with Wilder-like power, Joshua-like power, and all those things. And I'm not going to say he's not blessed with power, because if you look at his resume, he actually has like a decent amount of stoppages. But the thing is, there are certain fights that he'll go in there knowing that he'll go a 12-round decision and he'll outbox his dude. That's it. And that's what some people have to do.
Well, the great part is, Mitty, is that none of this matters, because Crawford's going to knock out Khan in under 6 rounds, and it's going to be entirely dominant. Khan's not going to win a single round. It's going to be great. Yeah.
If that happens, like, hey, I'll be sad, but all good. But,
I'll be sad.
That's why, the discussion that we're having, right, is essentially why I love boxing, right? Because, it doesn't matter what you're blessed with, as long as you find your way of doing things. Like, people can't rule you out in life. You can't just say, oh, because I'm like a small dude with no power in a boxing ring, I've got different strategy to pick, man. Okay, I know that. Let me recognize it. Let me just work on something else and just make it work for me. That's the beauty of it, man.
Rob, you have been silent through all of this, so have you wanted to say anything about anything we've said, or are you good?
No, I mean, I agree. I kind of agree with Midi that obviously we know styles make fights. If Crawford could take what Spencer's got, I see Crawford as the much better mover, the much better combination puncher than Errol Spence. It's just, can he take the power? That's when we'll find out, you know, I guess.
Look, Crawford, to be honest, struggled with Jose Benavidez. Right?
So is he bad?
No. But if he then goes and struggles against Amir Khan, who I think most people would recognize does not have the durability of even Jose Benavidez, that would be... It would just be ammunition. It would be ammunition that I'm not going to rule out as being absurd.
Yeah, it's not absurd. It's true. You're right. It's not absurd. It's like, oh, yeah, what's going on here? And what is he going to do against like someone who's truly blessed with power? Like, you know, and then... And be like, don't worry, I've got the answer to that because I'm sparring with 160. We know only his camp and only his people know that, you know, and only us are looking to find that out. And maybe we won't even find it out because, like, we'll say, actually, he's big enough. And he's not even struggling with Khan, like you said. He's not even struggling with anyone. So fuck it, like, he's the real deal, which I believe is the real deal anyway, but not because he will struggle with X, Y, Z. Like you said, people said he struggled with Benavidez. I didn't see it as a struggle. I saw it like, oh yeah, you know what? He went to 12 and whatever, but my dude was winning everything, right? And you know, so that's where he is, man.
Well, I have nothing else to say. Midi, I mean, do you have anything else to say? Any other points?
No. Thank you, man. It's good conversation. I know, like, you know, we love the smoke, we love the frustration, but you know, it's all love, man.
I want smoke.
Always, man. Always. Thank you, Midi. Rob, I think that's gonna be it for today. We're gonna wrap it up. Final thoughts, Rob?
Yeah, final thoughts. At 20 past midnight, I don't mind being here when it's not all stupid screaming and shouting.
And plus, we are ending at 20 past midnight, not starting at 20 past midnight.
The 20 past. I see what you did there. No,
yeah, there's a double entendre of jokes right there.
I got it. Don't worry.
Yeah, you got it.
I'm just pissed off. I didn't think of it. Yeah, when it's just back and forth, actual debate, and people listening to each other, it's good. Yeah, Joshua, I guess business-wise, it makes sense. The Miller fight over in New York. Just, you know, kind of disappointed if that is the fight. Disappointed for Dillian White. I don't know what this guy's got to do to get a world title shot. But yeah, Khan Crawford again. Madison Square Garden seems to be a very trendy place right now. New York making taking these fights away from Vegas, it seems. But yeah, it will probably turn out how most people think it will turn out. But you know, I think I'm giving him a little bit more credit than yourself. I think he can look to take some rounds. And if Amir Khan is on point and doesn't get his chin checked, I think it'll be a very interesting fight. But yeah, and Usyk go and be great at heavyweight, I guess. You know, let's find out. You know, perhaps I'll start actually giving you some credit. I'm only joking. No, clearly he's beaten Tony Bellew, so he is massively a great fighter.
The great Anthony Bellew, as he's called now on Twitter. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, that's fine. But yeah, another good show. A lot of people tuned in. You know, as you know, for us, you know, as we're growing. So hit that thumbs up on your way in or out, or whenever you tune in. I don't know how Matt's gonna maybe trim this show up a little bit so people don't click on it straight away and be like, "Yeah, no, I'm not interested."
Definitely gotta figure that one out.
Okay.
We were talking for a good 5 minutes before anyone said, "Hey, there's no sound." Which, by the way, thanks, chat. You guys just let us go on forever. But anyways, digressing from that.
But yeah, follow me UK Rob MCR Instagram and Twitter. Obviously, follow the show as well. MCR radio show. Just shout out to this being all over the place with the show social media. But
yes, Twitter at MCR radio show. Instagram at MCR Podcast, Facebook, Mixed Combat Radio, and obviously we are unfortunately MCR Net for another 2 months. Shout out to Google. Unless you change your name so many times. But anyways, I guess from that, like Rob, who changed his name, like his hero, Anthony Bellew on social media. Find me at Matt Hunter MCR. Final thoughts. AJ Miller, love it. Usyk versus Ortiz, fantastic. Crawford versus Khan, get the fuck out of here. Okay, for pay-per-view. God, holy shit. But anyways, digressing. Have a great day. Stay safe out there and go to patreon.com/Mixed Combat Radio to not only support the show, but get tons of extra content. We did another show earlier today with Mitty and his homie Scott talking about white-collar boxing over in the UK. It was fantastic. So go check that out. It's going to get released tomorrow or the day after. Haven't decided. Anyways, have a great day. Peace.
Later.